which is our first sovereign constitution of the first Éire.
He should have a speaker there that we can hear him.
The media won't talk to him, the government ignores him. Nobody wants him to have a voice.
No, they don't know.
They don't want you to know about it.
It was adopted by the first Dáil at its first meeting on the 21st of January 1919.
Declaration
The
of
meat
Independence.
fence.
Declaration
do
of Independence.
the trim.
Oh, we've been up to Tara.
Oh, have you? Look what they've done down there.
Whereas the Irish people, in my
Oh, look
mind,
at-
are free people.
Out to go out.
And whereas for 700 years, the
We'll
Irish
tell them that the real
people
president of
never
Ireland is here. Billy McGuire, go and shake his hand.
Yeah, but who is he?
See the man holding the sovereign seal?
Yeah,
That's the sovereign seal of Ireland.
Can I go up and say hello to him?
And whereas in the group, in the country is and always has been based upon force and trust and maintained by military occupation against the clear will of the people. And whereas the Irish Republic was proclaimed in Dublin on Easter Monday 1916 by the Irish Republican Army acting on behalf of the Irish people. Well, thank you very much, fellow citizens, and that concludes our press release. The 5th of September, Sunday the 5th of September, it's the Liam McCarthy Trophy, the All Ireland Firm, and as you know, the GAA took off the Sovereign Seal and Éire from the medal on the 4th of September 2008, the sacred symbol of the Irish Republic. That's where our trophy, that's 100 years old this year, an absolute scandal. And you know what's happened to factories, banks and everything else since then. But on Sunday the 5th of September we will be commemorating our members and our 1916 rising in Arbour Hill Cemetery at 11 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Just we put at the backs of the chairs in Senate here, and TDs and senators have to turn their back on the sovereign seal and be subject to the Crown of England. But and we only had a claim on the 6 counties. But since Articles 2 and 3 have been removed, we're back to full sovereignty again, because that's what indefeasible means. Nobody can change the proclamation. You can change the Constitution. Harry read the first sovereign Constitution. That's the sovereign citizens, and when they vote, it's a sovereign vote, so they can change that. But nobody can change the 1916 proclamation, and that's how you get indicted. Only a sovereign government has the right to issue licenses, collect taxes, make appointments, and appoint a judiciary under the Sovereign Seal of Éire, which is something similar to that. That's the sovereign seal, but it has to have that's 14 strings, right? The one in Éire has 12 strings, and you know the one on the tricolour, when you put it up to the tricolour, it's the Sovereign Republic of Éire with 12 strings, and you see the harp. When you put that up to the mirror, you see the harp of the psaltery. It's the Trinity, the Son. That's the old Trinity that Harry had up there. It predates Roman Catholicism, and ours is the Sovereign Trinity, which is the Sun, the Moon, and the planet Earth. That curved side is for measuring the circumference of the Sun, the Moon, and the planet Earth. All mathematics. You see everywhere you turn. You see the pyramids of Egypt. The eye is what, if you go to Trinity, and you see where Cromwell, he broke the eye from the back of the Brian Moore harp. That's your knowledge. You know that that's a camera. It's your intellect that tells you. And it's all to do with the 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water. And man's intellect and reason. And man's 5 senses. That gives you 5 and 4, 9. And the Trinity, which I'm talking about, you saw it there on the thing with Harry. It's up at the course was not properly lined. That's the 12 strings. That's what that represents. That goes back to creation. And that's how you live. Everything you want to know, the abacus. Look, that's the sun box and the sound box. You know, the telescope. Everything to do with our planet Earth and civilization. The strings. You see the sun beams coming down. That grows all our biomass. And then on the harp is the moon. The moon beams. That controls all the cycles of life and all the tides. But everywhere, that's the blueprint for the Corach. Excuse me. and it carries the sun. And the harp comes the other way around, carrying the moon in the opposite direction. But that, Copernicus and Galileo, they put the string and they followed that in their imaginations, went underneath and came up the following morning. That's 12 moon going across the arc of the sky going down. But it is the most fabulous It
is, yeah. It's
You
the
know.
only symbol in the world, or the
Yeah.
only people that use an instrument, a musical instrument, as
Yeah,
their
but
national
it
symbol.
goes, every child in the world who's initiated with that, they can understand that.
Yes.
And you'll always know it. You're never alone.
Yeah.
It's the only symbol that survived, well, we say, the Garden of Eden when the world was destroyed and turned up. That is the only symbol. That's God and the sovereignty. That's what He gave us, how to build our civilization. And it's His planet Earth and our civilization. You take the string, that's your measuring tape, your plumb line. You saw the ohm stick, it's written in ohm, which is all the native woodland trees, the first letter.
Yeah.
And that's why all our languages are different, because they all have different native woodland trees in each country. But you can actually, it's written in ohm as the first string. The second string is hieroglyphics, Egypt, and all comes to that, how to write music. Everything you want to know is on that.
It's interesting that they had to put a ring of stars around the harp using
Well,
it
they did, but the one I actually have is 32, because the Trinity is a 32 county sovereignty and can only be used. They can only see the Civil War and the Crown of England. Of course, what they wanted was all the industry. I mean, 25% of shipbuilding in the world, they controlled it. They controlled 80% of the linen trade, all the big industries. They weren't going to give that to us. That's what the North was about, taking that. But now we see it's a liability on them, because there's no industry up there now. It's the English have to pay for all the civil service. They don't have, Crown of England doesn't have sovereignty. She has jurisdiction, which is a police force and a civil service. 8 strings IV on the buttons, that they carry. That's sovereignty. They're carrying sovereignty, and that was all done in the War of Independence. That's it. And you see that has the 2 images. The harp is only one. And that's what Christianity became. When man's intellect and reason, he understood how to build his civilization. And there's a fabulous history there. I mean, I'm only telling you sort of, you could go on for...
Oh, you could go on for hours, yeah.
Ever on it. But no child is ever left in the world on its own. Once they're initiated with that, no matter what race, creed, or anything else, they can all understand that. And you just take the string, it's your measuring tape, your thumb line, your straight edge. How you build this all built from that.
Built our cities with it, didn't they?
Yeah. Rome was a basilica. It's a stone circle with an obelisk to the god Ra. Ours is the god Re. And that's what happened in 1155. Pope Adrian IV, he gave it to Henry II to build his empire. And it's up, if you look at, you'll see the fleur de lis, and our sovereign seal is up there. It caused every time it's been desecrated, it's caused the 100 Years' War. And look at since the 4th of September, since the GA took off the sovereign seal. See, the sovereign seal has to have Éire on it as well to make it legal, valid and bona fides. The harp is the national emblem, but it's not a legal entity. It's the national emblem, it's the covenant between God. But to make a document that's on your title deeds, your house, your land, your passport, anything else, it has to have the 12 strings and Éire on it. Put that up to the mirror and you see the harp in the sword. That's how you do it.
I was just reading a book about the Herald of Ireland, the Office of Arms.
But they don't even know what it is.
No, and it turns out that they were never actually switched over to Irish
So, they're a disgrace. I've had murder with them, It's a scandal that the Chief Herald of Ireland doesn't know the difference between the sovereign seal and the harp.
Yeah.
And the man before Gillespie, he took early retirement. He said, look, I'm over the library and that. I don't even... I said, you're an Irish person. You should know what's on your passport, your title deed.
They're more inclined to read about heraldry and royal
They're
history.
supposed to advise the government on sovereignty, and they can't do it. You go down to the Four Courts, it's not properly aligned, the Trinity. They have the harp, which is aligned to the moon, and the sovereign seal is aligned to the sun. The sun still rises in the east and goes across the arc. You see the curbside arc of the sky goes underneath. They didn't know the world was global and circular, the dome was circular and flat. It was Copernicus and Galileo that. But we have it, and it should come back. I think,
It is coming back.
Oh, God, you're right. I'm doing it 46 years all against abuse, which is my family. We put up the Trinity. That's our sovereignty. And we put up the Trinity in Dáil Éireann for the first Dáil Éireann. And Vaughan's Hotel is only up. I don't know where you're
Yeah, we were there the last
you were
time.
on Easter Sunday. That's Vaughan's Hotel. We bought that in 1917.
And can we go in, or is there anything historical in there?
The government, John Bruton and and Jim Kemmy and Dick Spring. They got rid of it.
So can I ask you what happened in 1922? I know that they stopped turning up to the ceremony. The
Well,
government.
you see, having